Hello, we are Geeks Assembled, and today we will be discussing a 2002 movie, which was a sequel but also a prequel. It was the sequel to the 99 movie Phantom Menace. Of course, we are talking Attack of the Clones, Star Wars Attack of the Clones. Hate it or love it? People like it, some people hate it. And we are going to find out with these people here what their thoughts are on this movie. So without further ado, we'll go on opening thoughts, and we'll go to Susan first.
Okay, thank you. I was, I when I first saw this, when I was waiting in line for a day and a half to get a ticket to get to see this movie, it was pretty blown up in my head. The So was the first one. So was Phantom Menace. Um, but uh, yeah, the longer it goes past this, this is one of the ones that I don't watch very frequently, and I that's for reasons. That's for actual reasons. Um, I own it. I mean, I really enjoy uh, Natalie, Natalie Portman and Ewan McGregor. I'm I've struggled at times with Hayden Christensen. Can't I can never fault Christopher Lee or Frank Oz as Yoda. Um, and Samuel L. Jackson is a badass and everything. So kind of the cast has got some great members in it. Let's just put it that way. The movie itself has some really awkward CGI. Really awkward CGI. The longer I watch it, the more awkward it seems. Things are not, you know, elegant. I mean, they're visually elegant. There's lots of little details and things like that. But you know, like the flying scene, and oh, I'll just get into that later. But yeah, I guess I enjoy it, but I'm gonna pass it back to you, Lee, and we'll talk more later about this.
Thank you, Susan. Um, we'll go to Phil, because I think was this the first time you've seen this?
It was, yeah, actually, strangely enough. Um, I'm not a huge sci-fi buff. I'm a Doctor Who guy through and through, really. But I saw it as an opportunity, really, because I've had the complete saga Blu-ray set since last year, and never got round to starting it. I have seen the middle three probably once or twice over the years. Never saw them in the cinema, but and I have seen the most recent trilogy, but I'd never seen the prequels. And so this podcast was a chance to actually do that and then work my way through chronologically through the whole set. And I've got up to the end of the original Star Wars film so far. I've got Empire to do next. But I really enjoyed it. I've really enjoyed the prequels full stop, actually. More than I probably thought I would, but I went in with no real preconceptions. I mean, I've seen bits over the years of them, but I've just never seen them from start to finish. So it was an interesting experience. But yeah, I did enjoy it. And I enjoyed Attack of the Clones probably more than I enjoyed Phantom Menace, although I didn't not enjoy that. So yeah, I mean, it's the way that it builds, and seeing it in order, you know, for the first time as well. It's I like the way that it's building up towards, you know, what will be the end of Revenge of the Sith, and where the first series of three kicks in. But yes, I enjoyed it. I get what people say. It kind of reminded me, because I think I must have heard at the time that people were very critical of Hayden Christensen, and stuff like that. I thought he was okay. Um, and there was less Jar Jar Binks, because that was quite curious for me in the first film. I can see why he was there. I'm sure kids probably love Jar Jar Binks. And he was funnier, so it brought a lightness to the whole thing. But yeah, for Attack of the Clones, I on the whole, I enjoyed it. I agree actually with what Susan just said, because the very first scene, the CGI is dreadful compared to what was in Phantom Menace. It sort of evens up later on in the film, but it's almost like they haven't finished the shots. Just in that opening thing with the cruiser and stuff like that, it's like, hang on a minute, this doesn't look very good at all. But the film moved on past that, and I thought some of the sequences later were very good.
Thanks for that, Phil. Who shall we go to next? I think I'll save Connor till last because I know what's going to come from Connor. Let's go to Jake.
Right. So a very dull script with mediocre acting minus Christopher Lee and a shit ton of crap CGI. This is the worst Star Wars film for me and the worst one of the prequel trilogy. I don't necessarily like the prequels minus Revenge. I enjoy Revenge of the Sith. But there's not really much that I really like about it. Hayden Christensen really dragged down the whole film for me. I don't really credit him much as an actor at all. I think he's awful. I really didn't like him in this. I don't like Padme Armadillo or whatever her name is. She doesn't. I just don't like their dynamic at all in this film. But there are positives to this film. Like we get to meet the main figureheads in the Clone Wars, especially of the Separatists. You get to meet Count Dooku, Wat Tambor, Poggle the Lesser. You get to meet all these different villains that are going to be pronounced in extended media from that point on with the Clone Wars and stuff. But yeah, but there's the CGI and everything, and the action, the really bad action scene sometimes really lets this film down for me. I don't think it's a very interesting film at all. Very undeveloped.
Thank you, Jake. Right, here we go. Connor, over to you.
This movie is a steaming pile of shit. It's truly, truly terrible. The prequels get a lot of stick, rightfully so. There's only about half an hour of the prequels that really should matter. But this one is the worst of them all. This is the scourge of Star Wars, I think is the correct term for it. People give The Last Jedi a lot of stick. You need to rewatch this one. A lot of pointless scenes, as I said. Hayden Christensen could not act to save his life. He really is one of the worst casting decisions they ever made. And they managed to get an Oscar winner in Natalie Portman in there. This was before she won an Oscar there. Samuel L. Jackson, Christopher Lee. Get them three in, and they're great. And Ewan McGregor as well. But the rest is just awful. Awful, awful, awful. It's got very few, if any, redeeming features. And I like Revenge of the Sith. Revenge of the Sith is shaky at the best of times. Phantom Menace is terrible, but this is truly, truly awful. I think that I can't say anything more about it because it's a movie you want to forget. I remember I've seen this movie 15 times maybe since I was a kid, and every time it just doesn't get any better. I just want to forget it every time. That's really how bad I find it. And my opinion on this has never changed in the slightest. Just maybe the first watch of it, I was because I was quite young, and I was introduced to Star Wars way before I was introduced to Doctor Who. And it was passable maybe then, but now, no. You'd struggle to see me rewatch any of the prequels, but this one in particular. I can't say much in the way of positive things about this movie, unfortunately.
Oh dear. Well, it's good to see that you hid your hatred for this movie really well there, Connor. Yeah, for me, this is the Marmite of the Star Wars franchise. Either you love it or you hate it. And I'm in the middle here. Some things are okay, some things are bloody awful. I know Hayden gets a lot of stick. Yeah, he's not a very good actor. He's a lot better in Revenge of the Sith. I mean, I don't know what happened in between this movie and that movie. Maybe someone took him aside and had a serious talk to him. I don't know. But he's still not a very good actor. I mean, he might be a very nice guy, but, there you go. But any movie with Christopher Lee, is a positive for me. Growing up watching all the old Hammer movies and stuff, Christopher Lee, he rocks, of course. Ewan McGregor, I'm not a big fan of Ewan McGregor personally, because when he appears in certain movies, it can be the kiss of death of these movies. He hasn't had much luck choosing the right movies sometimes, but he's okay as Obi-Wan. And it has been said the relationship between Padme and Anakin, it doesn't work for me. Maybe if it was two different actors, it might do. But what you have got to give is a big thumbs up. George Lucas experimented with this movie. As I say, it's nearly 100% CGI on sets, green sets and that lot. He took the bull by the horns and experimented with this movie, and he failed. To be honest, he failed with it because it does sometimes feel like you're watching an episode of the animated, is it Clone Wars or Rebels or whatever. You do feel like you're watching something like that. But without George Lucas experimenting in his movies, you wouldn't have any of the magic we get, the special effects we get these days in any movies we have now. Lucas films and stuff like that. So much magic for movies. But yeah, I don't know. It's a difficult one, this one, because I wasn't keen on Phantom Menace. I'm not so keen on this one, but I do like Revenge of the Sith, and we will do Revenge of the Sith in the near future, and that'll be the whole Star Wars saga what we've done, and we'll have got them out the way. So let's go to favourite moments. Moments what you think are absolutely bloody awful. Go on, Susan. I saw your hand go up there.
Yeah. Well, okay. I know that this is all just, describing the fall of Anakin and the rise of the emperor and the empire. And in the first one, Ian McDiarmid played the chancellor, played the senator as sort of a slimy guy. You kind of thought he was hitting on Padme, and she was just a young lady, and that was really slimy. And then you saw his machinations with, but in this he's just, he's sitting there, and the only people that he can manipulate is a Gungan, Jar Jar. I mean, really, come on. And I mean, in all of the other ones, he's freaking scary as hell. He's, completely unhinged. And I mean, I just wasn't, that was part of it. The chemistry between Portman and Christensen, that's awkward. I mean, I love that they shot it at Lake Como, and it was beautiful Italy, and it was so beautiful, and the Lake District was beautiful. That's kind of cinema magic, but the chemistry there, it wasn't. I mean, it was like Hayden Christensen was trying to be slimy there. And so I just, here I am just feeling bad for Padme. Like all these slimy guys are hitting on her, and she chooses a slimy guy. I mean, because all her life, all the slimy guys have been hitting on her. It ain't fair. It just ain't frickin' fair. And so, I mean, I'm like pulling on this. I'm pulling on this reality of their relationships, and Ewan McGregor was, he was brilliant in Train Spotting. I mean, you gotta credit him. He does great movies sometimes, and so this one is just, it's just a challenge for me as a Star Wars fan. It's a challenge for me because I want to love it. I really do. I really want to love it. Yes, the CGI moves forward in the next one and is, out of this world in the future. But so anyway, I have my reservations about it, and relationships are one thing that I harp on all the time. And in this one, I didn't see that they moved. That there, I mean, he was just so slimy, and he was such a little baby. I just didn't know how she could be as powerful a woman as she is. She could have that be super attractive. And I mean, I don't understand. So anyway, back over to you, Lee.
Thank you. Who should we go to next? Let's go to Jake.
Out of all the film, the best bit for me is the Dooku versus Yoda fight. That's the highlight of the film. The only bit that I really enjoyed from the film. That's it, really. There's not much I can say I enjoyed about it. If I told you I enjoyed the whole thing, I'd be lying to you. So I can't stand this film. But yeah, even though Yoda was CGI, I think he was the best CGI out of the whole film. And like Lee said, it is a bit like the Clone Wars, but at least the Clone Wars has better writing and better character development. It's really saying something when an animated TV show is better than your film. And thank God we've got the Clone Wars, because half of these characters got so much more character development than what they got in this film. So praise the Lord for extended universe of all kinds. And that's my favourite moment from this pile of, yeah.
Okay, we'll go to Phil.
Yeah, but I mean, when you're criticizing going on about the Clone Wars were some considerable years after the film was made. We're talking about 2002. CGI was not as advanced as it is now. The technology they're making stuff now, or in the last few years, is leaps ahead. So it's an unfair comparison, really. He made the films with the technology.
Okay, then.
Budget at his disposal. So
the original 2D cartoon is better than this film.
Well, maybe it is. I've never seen them, so don't interrupt my little bit. I agree. I mean, the awkwardness of the relationship, but that sort of comes from the casting, which is sort of beyond the actor's control. They're trying to make the best of what they're given with the script and everything. I find it a bit bizarre, and in a way it comes back to the Phantom Menace, that they cast two actors so disparate in age in the first film, presumably with him knowing that those two characters would have to get it together in the second and third films. So it's, to cast such a young lad as Anakin in Phantom Menace is the root of the issue. Because if they were meant to be similar ages, okay, it's not unknown for a slightly older woman to fall for a younger man. That's not the thing. Maybe, of course, it could have been explained down to the dark side of the Force attracting her to him. you know, but obviously it was never sort of said, it was never even implied, but it could have been, you know, that was latent in him and even he didn't recognise it. But, you know, it didn't. So, but as like I say, I'm coming to this completely fresh. I'm glad I didn't spend my childhood like Connor, having been disappointed with this film 15 times. There's advantages to having too much, you know, stuff going on about Star Wars. It's not for me, which is what my attitude was back in 1977. It was like it was so everywhere, so all pervasive in every shop and every TV program that I thought, nah, if everyone else is doing that, I'm not. I'm sticking with my Doctor Who. So that was how I never quite latched onto Star Wars, the whole thing in the first place. But like I said, coming to it the first time, I didn't think it was as execrable as some of you have found it. But yeah, it's certainly not the best of the three, but it's a middle episode, and I think just the same in a way with the most recent trilogy. The middle one is always the bit that drags a bit and isn't. And I'm also wondering how planned it was. You know, but I don't know the history and I don't know all the background details of it and everything. So other than what I've seen on some of the special features on the Blu-ray. But I thought it was okay. Yeah. I mean, Christopher Lee brings gravitas to, as you say, to anything that he does, really. Yeah, it was okay.
Anyway, so speak of film, it was okay. We'll go to Connor and then we'll move over to Kevin. So Connor next.
Great moment, the Geonosis fight, specifically when Mace Windu kills Jango Fett.
Do you think that was good? Do you think that was a good moment? Because I thought that was a wasted moment.
Well, I thought it was good because Samuel Jackson actually got something to do rather than sit in a council chamber for the whole movie, which is one thing that I've never understood about Mace Windu in the whole trilogy, to be fair. Terrible moment. Anakin hates sand. Great moment when he goes after the Tusken Raiders at the encampment in revenge for his mother being enslaved again and killed. Terrible moment. Disco lights, as I like to refer to it, where there's a lightsaber fight going on, but they're not actually fighting. You can kind of see that. That's how terrible the CGI is between Anakin and Count Dooku. Yeah, that is just truly. That's that fight gets good up until that moment. Then it just completely falls flat, and then it gets good again when Yoda and Dooku fight, which is another great moment. I also quite like the moment with the bounty hunter, the woman, I can't remember her name.
Oh, yeah.
The purple.
Zam Wessel, I think.
Yeah, Zam Wessel. That's decent, but I thought that was kind of something like, oh, we had pod racing in the first one. Let's do flying cars on a big city landscape in this one. Try and up it up a bit. Another all right moment, actually, and more of them are coming back to me the more I think about it, actually, which is
really
strange.
does like this movie, doesn't he? He does.
He's going to give this a 9.5 out of 10 by the end of this.
Is death sticks? Want to buy some death sticks? That's always a great line, and Obi-Wan Kenobi's reaction to that is fantastic. Ewan McGregor is an actor that is wasted in this. Natalie Portman's wasted in this. Ian McDermott, thankfully Susan brought him up, is greatly wasted in this one, and he's one of the best parts of the entire saga. Other than that, steaming pile of shit. It doesn't have many redeeming features. So, yeah.
Yes, we can feel the love. We can feel the love emanating from you, Connor. Right, we'll go to a latecomer here. Kevin, you might as well give us your full thing about.
Well, how should I say this? This is the least Star Wars movie I ever rewatched in my entire life. Because I was always watching as a kid one, then I tried two, and it was so confusing for me even as a kid. I was like, where is this going? I can see it's clearly not something like a good CGI, but for its time it was like, wow, oh my god, it looks so good. Then I didn't notice the bad acting in it when I was growing older. Then I saw it and I was like, why did I watch it? Because I prefer, if I can choose from the prequels, I would say the third one is the best out of all of them. Because that's the one that I loved as a child, and it was on the cover, so it's the biggest spoiler for me that I counter. But the only thing that I really like about it was the Dooku fight, and they killed Jango Fett. I was like, was it really necessary, or was it just like Samuel L. Jackson is a nice purple badass, you know? He was the only one with the purple lightsaber. And yeah, we all know how that Palpatine thing went to nothing, basically, only talking, but doing nothing so much. Just, this movie is probably the most biggest setup for Revenge of the Sith. Because there are small seeds in there, like, was his mother killed in this one? Or, I've seen it only a couple of times. Probably yes. And yeah, he tried to, his, like, yes, Padme, I'm now older now, and now I'm now legal, I'm like, why? And also I know Hayden Christian can act in some scenes, but I've heard a lot of stories that George Lucas put them in front of a green screen and just shoot something. Yeah, I heard it a lot, and he was like, I don't like this paper. I can't. It touched my screen. I know it hurts. It's just like sand. It's in my eyes. It hurts. Just stop whining, you little bitch. I'm like, you don't go do any favors. Even the kids were like, what is he talking about? Sand? What's wrong with sand? Why should you put it in your eye anyway? And yeah, the ending was the biggest setup. Count Dooku, you can barely see that it's really CGI. Really, also with the landscape fight, that's what I remember as a child from the television. That's the only thing that I remembered ever from that movie, with the Palpatine chase scene, like a Blade Runner style sequence. But yeah, just the acting, I'm like, all right, it's CGI. I know you didn't have the abilities to get some good CGI, but still it was CGI. As a kid, you wouldn't probably notice. But if you go now as an adult, you can really notice it. And I don't understand why George Lucas put this all in front of a green screen. Like, why you're going to shoot the original trilogy with locations that is beautiful almost without green screen, and now it's like, oh no, I'm going to be freaking lazy, and I'm going to put everything in front of a green screen because it's cheaper. But yeah, this movie for me, it was all right. I prefer Last Jedi. In front of this, even, yeah, people are going to hate me. I don't give a damn. And yeah, in some ways the prequels are still better than the sequels in some ways, because Rian Johnson tried to do things different. That's not really bad. If you try to dare to do something different, it's basically something good. Oh, you loved the Last Jedi, Connor. Are you just joking, or
I
are you
do actually, yeah.
All right.
He's insane.
Well, we all know who is insane. All of us, mostly.
So
yeah, but the soundtrack is just top notch.
Yeah, the music in this is brilliant. You can't knock the music.
Yeah, because it's an age jump. Then this was the first one when Hayden Christian was in it, right?
Mm-hmm, yeah.
So eventually, the ending fight of Phantom Menace depends on the fate of Anakin. Because if Qui-Gon didn't die in that movie, Anakin had a father figure. And Obi-Wan was you know, his brother. So who knows?
Are you sure the music was good though? Because I don't think they should have used "Duel of the Fates," which is sort of a triumphant song, as he's riding off to rescue his mom.
Did
I
they
think
use
that
that?
was
I haven't
a
seen the movie
really
in a long time.
weird choice.
I don't know, but you know, if you compare this to episode 9, it's a masterpiece. Yeah, really it is. Like how Disney went with the last one, and if you can, you know, Rey is so powerful, I can get it, but sometimes I'm like, she has to get some weakness, please.
I don't know.
But
Can
yeah, Attack of the Clones, like 6 out of 10.
Yeah. Well, can I just say to you, Kevin, I don't like sand either.
Yeah, but why do you throw it in your eye if you're going to complain about it either way, you know?
I've never thrown sand in my eye. That's one thing. It always gets in the sandwiches.
Yeah, but the line is stupid. That's the whole thing about the scene. It was so unnecessary. Like, I'm trying to connect with you, but I don't know how, so I'm going to talk about sand. You should never do that with a woman or with a woman or a man and talk about sand. It doesn't go anywhere. But yeah, in this movie, it does. And then she gets killed, spoiler alert, by Anakin. But yeah, we all know how that went.
You see, for me, I think I get the feeling from this movie is, as I said before, George Lucas was experimenting with this one. He wanted to do something different. This is why he used CGI.
I prefer the Clone Wars version cartoon.
Also, I get the feeling they tried to put too much into this. There was too much stuff happening, to be honest. There was all off on different missions.
It was all packed in 2-hour movie.
Yeah.
They should have just made 5 movies out of the Clone Wars era, if you really think about it. That's why the Clone Wars of the cartoon were so good.
I actually recommend, I think it's on YouTube, there's an edit called the Phantom Edit. And it's half an hour long. It's all 3 films condensed into half an hour. And it's a better thing than all 3 movies, including Revenge of the Sith, which is a decent movie. But Attack of the Clones, none of it, from what I remember, is in the Phantom Edit.
Okay. You know what I think would have been better? Not that I'm an awesome writer or anything, just that I think that it would have made more sense had like Anakin met a girl at that bar at the very beginning of the movie, instead of like dragging this thing from his childhood forward. I think that would have been, you know, more realistic, because he's not. I mean, Anakin is not a relational guy. His kids don't live with him. His wife doesn't live with him. I mean, he's just. He honestly, you know, picking up somebody at a bar would have been a hell of a lot better. I think, you know, as Obi-Wan's all talking to that guy with the death sticks, Anakin is meeting some girl and going, "Ooh, how about it, you and me?"
Really, did he say that?
but yeah, I mean, as it's been said, early days of CGI. I mean, we can do a lot better now. There is some goddamn awful scenes in this. I mean, every scene with C3PO with C3PO in it is awful.
I haven't seen that. Probably for the better.
I mean, that was CGI C3PO. It was just. I don't know why they did that. I mean, you had the actor. You even had the actor in the bar, behind the bar, pulling drinks. Anthony Daniels did a cameo in the bar. If you got the actor there, put him in the suit. You know, and I thought Jango Fett was wasted, to be honest. The killing him off like that was wasted. He could have been in the next movie, to be honest.
I didn't think Jango Fett was that interesting enough to be a developed character for us. I found him
didn't give him a chance to develop. He could have developed more into the next one.
There is one aspect of this movie that I want them to do.
They needed just to hold on for Jango. They needed to. I think the reason for Jango was to lead into the Mandalorian, eventually.
Yeah, but
and then Mandalorian.
But the Mandalorian was not thought of back then.
No, it wasn't thought of back then, so that's
Yeah.
only looking at it from now.
They haven't got a time machine, Susan.
Well, if we had a time machine, we probably would have, screw up the time continuum.
We'd have screwed it up and thrown it away. What was you saying, Connor?
As I was saying, there was one bit actually that I would appreciate a bit more of an extrapolation on or a spin-off, and that's Sci-Fi Diaz. The whole thing with him and the Kaminoians, whatever you would call them, the people of Kamino.
There's a whole 5-episode arc about it in the Clone Wars at the minute.
All right, I'll give that a watch then, because actually that was one of the interesting. He was kind of name dropped and then never really mentioned or even kind of acknowledged again in any sort of major way. And he was obviously very clearly a major part in getting the clones made to serve the Republic, which later kind of backfired because they ultimately became stormtroopers under control of the Empire. So that would have been a nice little thing, a bit like the Sith in Rise of Skywalker. That would have there's some material there that you can take and run with the spin-off of.
Now, does Kevin or Jake want to say something? Because the little hand keeps coming up. No.
We're just clapping.
Yeah, all right, okay.
No, but anyway, I don't know how long you have been going on for this.
Oh, we've been going on it feels like 50 years.
Oh, geez.
The
sand scene is the most important scene actually with the mother, because that's the first plant, of the dark side in him that awakens, basically. Because I cannot do anything about it and slice and dice some people.
You mean, yeah, for me, Anakin's character is better when the dark side is showing, to be honest.
He's kind of there in his anger because he shouldn't be angry as a Jedi, should he? So it's kind of there. I mean, the one thing that I think, to me, it kind of feels, like I said, having only just seen these for the first time, is that obviously when he made the original trilogy, he didn't have the prequel trilogy mapped out. Or at least it doesn't feel like he had it mapped out.
He mostly had a basic idea, and that was it.
Yeah, and so I think it's like I said, it's like a middle episode. It's like he knew where the first film had to get to, and he knew where the third one had to get to, and the second one is trying to join up the dots so that it gets to the point where New Hope starts. And I think that's where it all gets a little bit, maybe a bit lost in translation, and certain characters don't get explored because there isn't time to explore them. Because they know you've got to reach a certain plot point of the halfway through Revenge of the Sith where it all kicks off.
True.
And there isn't time to explore that relationship with Anakin and Queen Lovey-Dovey-Doo, or whatever her name is. I'll
tell you so much.
It's
should have been that name. Queen Lovey-Dovey-Doo. Well, that's what she's going to be known from now on.
Queen Armadillo.
Queen Armadillo.
I don't know why his girlfriend needed to be a queen. Now that I think about it, she could have been just anybody, and that would have.
But no, because it's Princess Leia. That's why Princess Leia. She's a princess. She's going to come from royal blood.
Well, she already does because of the king and queen of
Alderaan.
Alderaan.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't think he would have made Princess Leia the daughter of a slapper in a bar.
Yeah.
Which would have been badass.
Not back in the 2000s. It wouldn't.
A badass slapper from a bar. No, that brings back memories.
Anyway. But Padme will always be the princess that died of sadness.
Yeah. Shall we go on to final saying scores then?
Can we please? Because this is getting
run this one dry. You've already given your score, haven't you, Kevin? Did you give it a 6? Right, so Kevin gave it a 6.
I gave it a 6.
Let's go to Susan.
Well, I have ideas above my station, apparently. No, I don't. I really think that you know, the treatment of Amidala as a person, as a character, was rubbish all along. I mean, obviously, someone doesn't know how to treat a real lady, and I think that the story was. I mean, there are other ways around these things, but I love the beautiful scenery, and um, you know, the this is the first time you really get to see the planet, all like the nighttime planet of Coruscant. And it is sort of the way I imagine like the big planet of Trantor in the Asimov series and stuff like that. I just think it's really cool. Anyway, I just want to talk just for a split second about how neat and what a cool guy Ian McDermott was to meet. He was for a guy who's played this horrible villain. This guy was so cool, so gentle, so fun, such a quick wit. I just think of the world of him. Anyway, I met him in San Francisco at San Francisco Comic-Con, and I was dressed as the Brigadier, so that was fun. Anyway, yeah, I'll give it a 7, which is the lowest I've given any Star Wars movie in all of our reviews all along, and I feel bad for doing it. Okay.
I don't know. What can we do with Susan? We're going to go to Queen Armadillo.
I'm going to give this film a 5. I don't like this film, and that's all I'm going to say about that.
Let's go to Phil.
I'd probably give it a 7. Yeah. I didn't not enjoy it. Yeah, there were elements of it that that in retrospect don't particularly work, but as part of the general storyline building up to A New Hope, none of it seemed to, and watching it for the first time, none of it seemed to really, I haven't had all these years of discussing and debating and all of that, so which I'm quite relieved about, I have to say now. That's all to come now. Anyway, yeah, 7.
7, good enough score there. Connor, oh God.
It gets a generous 2 out of 10 from me.
I don't think we really need any more than that, do we? Because we know why.
Yeah, I've explained it quite well.
In your opinion, it's still steaming and it's red hot. Me personally, I'm like that. I'm 50-50 on this one. So I'm giving it a 5, to be honest. There's some things I like, there's some things I hate. So it's a 5 from me. I think it is a general consensus with this movie that it does split the fandom a hell of a lot. Even, it's one of the, as it's been said, as Phil said, to me, it does feel like a filler. It's a Star Wars sandwich. It's the fillet, it's the middle bit, and it's just all ideas put in the middle, whirl it around, and that's what they came up with. It don't work here and it don't work there, but it works in places. Yeah, it's a mishmash. So that's our cast done for Attack of the Clones, guys. It's good to talk about things we love and hate, isn't it?
I actually want to add, I've met more people in this cast that like Attack of the Clones than I've ever met before in my entire life. I now know more than maybe one person that likes Attack of the Clones, which is shocking, truly shocking. But there you go.
Well, if you watch our podcast, I've given pretty much every single Star Wars movie either a 9 or a 10 all along, and this is the lowest I've ever gone in a Star Wars movie. Star Wars. What I mean, I liked Star Wars back in 1977, and I liked it. You know, I liked it last year. So I don't know.
Well, as I say,
You never have to look far to it for a Star Wars fan.
it's each their own. Someone's steaming Ted is someone's nugget of gold, isn't it? It's one of those. But yeah, so thank you guys for talking Attack of the Clones. I didn't think we'd actually get round to doing this one. So it's always a pleasure. You guys out there, if you enjoyed what you've watched, please leave a comment below and let us know what you think of the movie. If you want to be on the cast, get in touch on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We're all over the place. On YouTube, if you want to be subscribed to the channel and if you want notifications, just ding the bell and you will get notifications when a new video comes up. So on that note, we'll see you next time and stay safe, everybody. Bye bye now.